I was frozen in the driver's seat, engine still running, hands locked on the steering wheel like I was bracing for impact. My knuckles were white, bloodless. The tick of the cooling engine echoed through the cab and into my skull, steady, relentless. I wasn't angry yet, not even confused. It was worse than that, an eerie stillness before everything shatters. The kind of silence you get right before a building gives way, when the air changes and your gut knows something's about to fall apart. Just 2 hours ago, we'd been sipping drinks in her parents' backyard. A Thursday night dinner that was supposed to be easy. Her dad grilled steaks, her mom poured cheap wine, and served up unsolicited wedding advice like appetizers. Erica, my fiancée, wore a strange smile that didn't reach her eyes, too sweet, too smooth. Like a mask, like someone smiling while flipping you off beneath the table. Then she said it, right there, in front of her whole damn family. Just one last fling before the wedding. No big deal. Like she was mentioning hors d'oeuvres. Your mom even said it's fine. She said it like we were picking out matching towels. Like it was cute. Quirky. Her dad choked on his beer. Her mom's laugh broke, just for a second. Her face tightened before she caught herself. But Erica? She didn't blink. She just sipped her wine, legs crossed, completely unfazed. Like this was nothing new. Like I was the strange one for freezing in place. I didn't react. Couldn't. Not with all those eyes on me, waiting for a punchline that never came. They laughed it off, called it sarcasm. Some edgy bachelorette joke. And I played along, because I needed time, needed space. So now I was here, parked outside our house, staring at my own reflection in the black window, heart pounding like it was trying to break free. That feeling, when everything familiar starts to feel foreign. When the walls are still up, but something's shifting under the floorboards. I didn't go inside. I drove. No plan, no map. Just motion. Back roads. Empty gas stations glowing like ghosts. I ignored my phone while it lit up with alerts. Names I knew, numbers I didn't. Erica. Stacy. Unknown. I didn't open any of them. Until the photo. No name. Just the image. Blurry. Rushed. Hotel mirror. Erica. Half naked. Some guy's arm around her waist. A watch sitting on her hip like a claim. Her mouth open in that breathless, familiar giggle. I knew that sound. I'd memorized it. My stomach turned so hard I nearly puked right there. This wasn't a mistake. Not some drunken lapse. This was calculated. Intentional. And she wanted me to see it. No one sends that photo by accident. I pulled off on a dirt road, killed the lights, and stared into the dark while the engine hummed beneath me. The pressure in my chest was crushing. We were 13 days from the altar. Guest list finalized. Deposits down. Suits hanging in closets. Vows inked. And she was out there ticking boxes on some twisted pre-wedding bucket list. But my fury didn't roar, it crystallized. Cold. Precise. Something inside me shifted. Locked into place like steel snapping into alignment. I was done being understanding. She wanted chaos? Fine. She just handed me the matchbook. You can't destroy a marriage that hasn't started yet, but you can make damn sure nothing grows from the ashes. So I did. And the fallout started long before sunrise. I never slept. Just sat in the living room. Lights off. The blue flicker of the TV playing to no one. My phone buzzed constantly on the coffee table, each notification flashing like distant lightning. I didn't touch it. Didn't need to. I was sinking deeper and deeper into that deathly calm that comes before a storm swallows the shore. At 3:12 a.m., the front door creaked open. Her heels clicked across the floor, sharp, unbothered, like nothing had happened. She stepped inside like she owned the night. Makeup smudged just enough to look curated. Hair a mess in that glossy, magazine-perfect way. She smelled like expensive perfume trying to mask the scent of sweat, alcohol, and someone else's skin. She tossed her purse onto the counter. And then she saw me. Still. Silent. Waiting in the dark. No guilt in her eyes. No flicker of fear. Just that crooked, calculating smile she always used when she thought she could twist the narrative in her favor. "Did you see my texts?" she asked, all breezy, like we were discussing groceries. "You're blowing this way out of proportion." I didn't answer. She dropped onto the chair across from me, legs crossed, gaze locked on mine. "Okay, look, I was drunk. It was stupid, but you're acting like I murdered someone." Still, I said nothing. Just stared, watching the way her eyes darted away after a few seconds. Watching the edges of her confidence start to fray. Jesus, say something, Nate. That's when I laughed. Just once. A sharp, hollow bark that felt like it belonged to someone else. She flinched. You think this is funny? She snapped, face contorting. You're sitting here judging me like you've never done worse. There it was, her signature move. Spin it around. Make me the villain. But she didn't see what was coming. I know about the hotel, I said. Voice flat. Cold. I saw the photo. She froze, not in guilt, not in horror, just irritation. Ugh. Who sent it to you? Was it Stacy? That jealous bitch never minds her own business. And that was the final nail. It wasn't a slip. It wasn't something she wished she could take back. It was power. She wanted control. To see how close to the edge she could push me without watching me fall. She stood, arms crossed, pacing like a grounded teenager. You're not perfect either. You've been cold. You don't even touch me anymore. What did you expect? There it was. The guilt, twisted and sharpened, thrown back like a dart. And it was just once, she said. It didn't mean anything. But I knew the truth. She wasn't sorry. Not for doing it. Just for being caught. Then she dropped the nuke. Honestly, you should be grateful. Now we both got it out of our systems. Clean slate. Fresh start. My hands curled into fists on my knees. I wanted to hurl something. Scream until my throat tore open. But I didn't. I smiled. Slow. Frosted. You really think we're still getting married? She blinked, confused. Of course we are. What? You're gonna walk away 2 weeks before the wedding. Grow up. That was the moment she stopped being someone I loved and became someone I needed to outmaneuver. Something inside me switched off. No more pleading. No more second-guessing. She wanted war. She didn't know I'd already begun planning the campaign. I stood, walked past her, and let 5 words drop like a gavel behind me. You'll hear from my lawyer. She didn't follow me. Maybe she thought it was another empty threat. Maybe she assumed I'd cool off, come crawling back, like all the other times she staged her little dramas. But this wasn't about forgetting a birthday or flirting too long at a bar. This was war, and I had just declared it. By sunrise, I was sitting at a roadside cafe, hands wrapped around a cup of black coffee, no cream, no sugar. Just bitter heat to match the bile churning in my chest. Matt showed up in pajama pants and a hoodie, hair a mess, eyes wide as I laid it all out. He didn't interrupt, just listened. When I finished, he leaned back, let out a low whistle. She's a psychopath, man. That's not even cheating. That's premeditated emotional arson. I laughed, a real laugh for the first time in days. But there was no light in it. Then I got to work. 3 calls. One to a lawyer my coworker had recommended after his own implosion. One to my mom, who, by the way, never said what Erica claimed. And the last to the venue. I burned it all down. The florist, the DJ, the caterer, every detail we'd planned. I turned it to ash before the sun had fully set. But I didn't tell her. Not yet. That night, I walked through the door like nothing had changed. She was sprawled on the couch, scrolling her phone, feet up like she hadn't just detonated our lives. She barely looked up. You okay now? I wanted to scream. But I didn't. I smiled. Calm. Surgical. Yeah, I said. I think I see things clearly now. She grinned. Oblivious. She looked at me like she'd won. Victorious. Smug. Like some silent war had just tipped in her favor. So we just moved forward, right? She said, casual as tossing out a weather report. I mean, it's not like you're perfect either. People make mistakes. We're human. I didn't answer. Just kept walking past her. She mistook my silence for surrender. It wasn't. It was strategy. Because while she was picking out first dance songs, I was collecting evidence. Emails, screenshots, photos. Uber receipts from the hotel she thought I'd never find. All thanks to our synced account. Every lie she thought she'd buried, I exhumed and organized into a crisp, clean folder labeled Freedom. 2 nights later, I invited her parents over. She looked puzzled, but didn't question it. Probably thought it was some sentimental gesture. A sweet pre-wedding send-off. When they arrived, everything was set. Neatly arranged documents on the dining table. A full glass of wine in my hand, like I was about to make a toast. Her dad sat stiffly. Her mom wore her usual too bright smile. And Erica, she looked pleased, like she'd already spun this moment into a story she'd one day tell about how I came crawling back. Until I slid the folder across the table. Your daughter's been busy, I said. She blinked, let out a weak laugh. What is this? I didn't answer. Just leaned back and let her parents read. The silence that followed felt thick enough to strangle. Her mom's face went ghost pale. Her dad muttered, "Jesus Christ, Erica." And for the first time since all of this began, her mask cracked. She lunged for the folder, desperation bleeding into her voice. "You set me up." "No," I said, sipping calmly. "You set yourself up. I just kept the receipts." She lost it, screaming, red-faced, grasping at any excuse she could spin. "You're ruining my life. You're being dramatic. It wasn't even serious. I only did it because you stopped trying." Her dad snapped at her to shut up. Her mom, voice trembling, apologized to me. Erica stormed out, doors slamming behind her like a gunshot. I stood still, empty glass in my hand, staring at the chaos she left in her wake. And for the first time since that night in my truck, I felt something solid. Not peace, not forgiveness, but control. She didn't take long to spiral. Less than 12 hours later, she went scorched earth online. Instagram, Facebook, hell, even LinkedIn. Every feed lit up like a New Year's countdown. All the pictures of us, gone. Replaced by vague, venom-laced quotes like, "Sometimes people show you who they are. Believe them the first time." And a real man doesn't humiliate the woman he loves. Followed by the grand finale. I didn't lose him. He lost me. The comments came pouring in. Her tribe of yoga instructors and brunch buddies flooding the posts like a pity parade. "Ugh, what did he do? You're a goddess, babe. Men only cheat when they're scared of a strong woman." Oh, the irony. She told the world I cheated. That I was manipulative, emotionally abusive, that I gaslit her for years. All of it utter, steaming, high-grade bullshit *T. But I didn't respond. Not yet. Because when someone's digging their own grave, you don't snatch the shovel. You hand them a bigger one. And the silence? It spooked her. When Erica got nervous, she got sloppy. So she made her next move. She showed up at my job. I was in the middle of a client meeting when the receptionist buzzed in. "Nate? There's an Erica here. Says it's urgent." I stepped into the lobby, and there she was. Leggings painted on, hoodie hanging just low enough to whisper vulnerability. Tears glistening, makeup immaculate. Voice soft, cracking just enough to fool someone who didn't know better. "Can we talk?" she whispered. "Just 5 minutes." I wanted to tell her to get the hell out. But the lobby was packed. Partners walking by, cameras in the corners. So I let her outside. The second we hit the sidewalk, she dropped the act. "Look," she said, "I know I messed up. But this is too much. My parents are pissed. My friends are asking questions. Just undo it. Please." She reached for my hand. Her fingers brushed mine. I pulled away like she was acid. "Erica," I said, steady cold. "You didn't mess up. You detonated. You burned down a life and danced in the smoke." She sniffled, eyes welling again. I'd seen that performance before, crying on cue to get out of speeding tickets. But I wasn't buying it. I'm not walking into a ceremony to say vows to someone who proudly slept with a stranger for closure. That's when her expression cracked. The softness vanished. Her voice sharpened like glass. "Fine. You want to play hardball?" she sneered. "Then I hope your little girlfriend's worth it." My blood iced over. "What?" She smirked. "Yeah, I know about Julia." Julia, my coworker. A woman I'd shared 2 innocent coffee breaks with. No flirting, no mixed signals, just mutual deadlines and lattes. But Erica didn't care about truth. She just needed ammunition. "Let's see how HR reacts when I tell them she's been sending you inappropriate messages. I can make it look real. You think I can't?" There it was. Full scorched earth. But I didn't flinch. "Try it," I said quietly. "And I'll post the video." Her eyes narrowed. "What video?" I stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the shift. The trap ceiling around her. The one from the hotel hallway. The camera caught you leaving the room with your last fling. You weren't exactly discreet. And that footage still exists. She went still, totally silent. No sass, no comebacks. Just that widening flicker of panic. I turned and walked back inside. No dramatic exit line. Just the echo of the door closing behind me and her standing there, mouth open, all the wind knocked out of her sails. That night, she called 15 times. Left 3 voicemails, one sobbing, one screaming, and one whispering like she was the one who'd been betrayed. I didn't pick up, because now, she understood the one thing she never expected to learn. Her grip on me was gone. And I wasn't the man she used to toy with. By Friday, the tide shifted. Up to that point, she'd clung to her story, crying online, spinning lies offline, trying to paint herself as the broken-hearted girl who'd made a silly mistake. Her words. But people were starting to see the cracks. I didn't need a grand statement. I let the truth speak for itself. A private Google Drive folder, carefully shared with just a few. Her parents, my lawyer, mutual friends who'd been sitting on the fence. Inside, everything. Text messages, hotel receipts, Uber GPS logs. And yes, the hallway footage. Crisp, time-stamped. Her and the guy, shirtless, holding her heels, giggling like they'd just pulled off the heist of the century. I didn't post it publicly. I didn't have to. The whispers started on their own. By Sunday, her follower count was bleeding. People began deleting their support posts. Her cousin Amanda unfollowed her. Even her maid of honor messaged me. I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was this bad. I didn't reply. Her brand, yoga goddess, empowerment queen, poster child for #healing vibes, was rotting in real time. And then came her last desperate move. She showed up at Julia's apartment. Yep, that Julia. I was home, watching a movie, when my phone lit up. Julia's voice was shaking, not with fear. With fury. Your ex-fiancé just showed up at my door. Called me a homewrecker. I almost laughed. Erica had never even met her. Apparently, she launched into a tirade, accusing Julia of emotional grooming, claiming we'd been hooking up for months, warning her she was about to be exposed. Julia, bless her, recorded the whole damn thing. 10 glorious minutes of Erica unraveling, her voice flipping from smug to hysterical, riding the edge of total collapse. At one point she actually said, "He's mine. You don't get to win just because I slipped up once." Slipped up. That was still her narrative. Not betrayal. Not sabotage. Just a little trip on the way to forever. I told Julia to send me the video. She did. I added it to the folder. And then, for the first and only time, I went public. One Instagram story. Black screen. White text. Not everything needs to be screamed online. But the truth? It always leaks through the cracks. Check your stories before you build your fairy tales. No names. No drama. Just quiet pressure. Her response was instant. 19 messages in an hour. Paragraphs of apologies, threats, gaslighting, and full-blown delusion. It was like watching a storm try to put itself back in the bottle. And then came the final nail. A text from my lawyer. FYI, she tried to contact the venue. Asked to reschedule the wedding under her name only. Thought you'd want to know. This woman, I swear to God, was actually trying to keep the venue. For what? A rebound wedding? A spite party? She wasn't grieving. She wasn't even sorry. She was humiliated. And that's when it all clicked into place. Erica never really loved me. She loved the feeling of being worshipped. She loved the spotlight. The idea of someone orbiting her like she was the center of the universe. And the second I stopped spinning around her, when I pulled my gravity out of her solar system, she panicked. She wasn't fighting for our relationship. She was fighting for her audience. And that audience was starting to walk out. It all came to a head at Dave and Courtney's engagement party. Honestly, I hadn't planned on going. They were more Erica's friends than mine, and after her stunt with Julia, I figured the last thing I needed was another dramatic scene. But then Courtney messaged me directly. Said they still wanted me there. Said everyone knew the truth now. That Erica had RSVP'd no. So I went. Showed up sharp. Calm. Composed. The eye of the storm. For the first hour, everything was normal. Music, champagne, the hum of polite conversation. People I hadn't spoken to in weeks came up, offering quiet apologies. Didn't know she was like that. Glad you got out. I appreciated it. Sure, but I didn't need it. Not anymore. I wasn't drowning in it. I was standing on the shore, watching her fire burn from a safe distance. And then, of course, she walked in. Erica, wearing a red, backless dress like she was about to accept an Oscar. Hair flawless. Makeup caked on thick enough to cover the collapse underneath. She locked eyes with me the second she entered and smiled. That same smug, self-satisfied smile that used to say I own you. But she didn't know it was already over. She didn't know about the video quietly circulating. She didn't know Courtney had seen the evidence and was livid. Erica even had the audacity to show her face. What happened next? Not planned. But damn, it was poetry. Halfway through the night, Dave clinked his glass for a toast. Courtney stood beside him, glowing, hand resting lightly on his chest while he talked about love and futures and all the dream package stuff. Then Courtney took the mic. Before we wrap up, she said, I just want to say something. Erica was standing near the back, wine in hand, smiling like she was above it all, posing for invisible cameras, waiting for her next photo op. Courtney didn't even look her way. I want to thank everyone who came tonight, especially those who've shown real integrity this past month. You know who you are. A beat. Then her eyes landed on Erica. And to those who treat love like a game, who use people like props in their fantasy life, I hope one day you look in the mirror and see the truth, not the mask. Silence. Erica's face shattered. That smile dropped off her lips like it had been yanked away. The entire room shifted. No applause, just tension. Whispers. People turning away, moving past her like she'd started to rot. She stood alone, in the ruins of her carefully curated image, watching it all collapse around her. Later that night, I passed her near the bathroom. She stepped into my path. So this is it, she hissed. You're just gonna let them tear me apart? I met her eyes. Steady. No. You tore yourself apart. They're just finally seeing what's underneath. She tried to laugh. It came out brittle. You always wanted to be the hero. I shrugged. No. I just stopped being your fool. She didn't respond. Just stood there, lashes trembling like they could shield her, arms wrapped around that overpriced red dress like it could hold her together. You're not as innocent as you pretend. I leaned in, close enough to feel her freeze. And you're not as clever as you thought. I walked away. She didn't follow. That was the last time I saw her in person. No dramatic goodbye. No scream echoing down the hall. Just silence, and the sound of her world folding in on itself. You ever wake up after a brutal storm, the kind that rattled the windows, ripped the roots out of the ground, made you wonder if the house would even stand, and then suddenly, there's quiet? That was me. The morning after the party. No buzzing phone. No 3 a.m. texts. No burner accounts clawing for another audience. Just sunlight cutting through the blinds, and a silence so sharp, it felt like breathing real air for the first time in weeks. I called in and took the day off. No excuses. No explanations. Just me. Barefoot, wandering the house like I was relearning how to live in it without her ghost clinging to the walls. It still smelled like her in some corners, vanilla and lies, but it was fading. I cracked drawers open and started purging. Her makeup bag? Trash. That ridiculous bride-to-be sash she left draped over the mirror like it was some kind of trophy? Gone. Then I found a birthday card tucked into my sock drawer. Froze for a second. Her handwriting, still so familiar. Bubbly. Sugar-coated with fake sweetness. Can't wait to spend forever annoying you two hearts. Yeah, that one didn't age well. Straight into the shredder. Matt showed up around noon. No warning. Just a bag of tacos in one hand, a six-pack in the other, and that look he gets when he's trying not to say I told you so. You good? Better than I've been in a long time. He nodded. Didn't push. Just cracked a beer and flipped on the game. And there, with hot sauce on my hand and the sound of laughter in the background, I felt something I hadn't touched in weeks. Peace. But peace doesn't mean it's over. Because while I was stitching myself back together, the legal fallout still loomed. The fees. The vendors. The financial mess of canceling a wedding 2 weeks out from the aisle. Thankfully, my lawyer was a shark, and we'd already rerouted most of the liability to Erica. She lit the match. She could pay for the blaze. But she wasn't done swinging. She sent a counter request through her attorney. Emotional distress, public humiliation, reputational damage. Yeah, the same woman who bragged about her final fling, tried to tank my job, smeared my name, and stalked a coworker, was now claiming I ruined her life. My lawyer called me just to laugh. She's bold. I'll give her that. But don't worry. We've got her cornered like a rat, with receipts. So I signed the papers. Finalized the cancellation. Filed a no-contact order just to lock the door behind her. And with every signature, it felt like her poison leaked a little further out of my bloodstream. Julia reached out, cautiously at first. Said she was sorry for being dragged into the chaos. That she hoped I was okay. That she didn't mean to cause trouble. I thanked her. Told her it was never her fault. We grabbed coffee that weekend. Just coffee. No tension. No performance. No veiled digs or veiled threats. Just two people. Honest. It felt unfamiliar. In the best way. I didn't know what it would become. Wasn't in a rush to find out. Because this wasn't about chasing something new. It was about standing in the ashes of everything Erica destroyed and realizing I was still standing. You'd think, after everything, the public implosion, the social fallout, the legal firestorm, she'd slink away quietly. But not Erica. Narcissists don't exit stage left. They don't lose, not in their heads. They regroup, rebrand, retaliate. And that's exactly what she tried to do. It started with a tell-all essay on her little influencer blog, titled, "With Zero Irony, The Truth They Don't Want You to Know." Subtle, right? It was pure performance, an emotional fairy tale stitched together with half-truths and martyrdom. She painted herself as the poor bride-to-be who just wanted love, who felt neglected, who made a single mistake in a moment of weakness and was publicly crucified for it. Lines like, "He made me feel like a checklist, not a person," and "I begged for affection. All I got was spreadsheets," followed by, "It was one night. He destroyed everything because of one night." The post blew up, but not the way she hoped. Sure, her loyal army showed up in the comments, chanting forgiveness, shouting patriarchy, praising her vulnerability. But the rest? The rest came with pitchforks. Didn't you brag about the fling? You cheated and called your fiancé insecure. It was one night? Girl, it was a plan. She started deleting comments, then turned off replies, then quietly removed the post altogether. But the damage wasn't mine. It was hers. What Erica never understood was that her charm was only skin deep. Once the cracks showed, once people really saw her, they couldn't unsee it. And the ones who knew her best? They were the first to turn. Her ex-best friend Lindsay posted a TikTok later that day, just a few seconds long. Captioned, "If your friend brags about cheating and blames the guy for reacting, she's not your friend." The house of cards was falling. And this time, she was buried under it alone. She's a grenade. Pull the pin, and she'll blow up whatever's in reach, even if it's herself. Her own brother, who used to call me the boring accountant, sent me a message. "Didn't like you at first. Thought you were too straight-laced. But after all this, respect, man. You dodged a nuke." And then came the final twist. The one that pushed this whole saga into full satire. My venue coordinator called me. "Hey Nate, just a heads up. Erica tried to rebook your wedding date. Again. But this time, for herself. She pitched it as a self-love ceremony." I wish I was joking. She wanted to walk down the same aisle, in a designer gown, say vows to herself, and throw a party for the handful of friends still orbiting her chaos. Called it healing through celebration. And somehow, the most deranged part? She invited my mother. Yeah, a real invitation. Gold foil. Script font. "You are cordially invited to Erica Monroe's self-marriage celebration." My mom called me, half choking on laughter. "Honey, this woman doesn't need therapy. She needs an exorcism." I didn't respond to the stunt. Didn't need to. She was unraveling in real time, clawing for control, for validation, for a sliver of that old spotlight. But the truth was out, and all she had left to stand on was a crumbling podium of curated lies and fleeting attention spans. I stayed quiet. Let her scream into the void. Because that's what people like her do when the silence finally stops answering. And me? That silence was peace. The storm had passed. She was just a fading echo in the background. There's a moment in recovery when you realize you're not surviving anymore. You're living again. For me, it happened on a Tuesday afternoon. In a grocery store, holding oat milk and a six-pack, earbuds in, standing behind a couple bickering over expired coupons. Nothing grand. Nothing cinematic. Just stillness. That subtle, soul-deep awareness. I wasn't thinking about her. Not Erica. Not the wedding. Not the photo. Not the collapse. Nothing. She had been background noise for so long I forgot what real quiet felt like. And in that aisle, under those humming fluorescents, it hit me. I was finally free. Not just legally. That happened weeks ago. Not socially. That circus flamed out after the self-wedding debacle. But emotionally. Mentally. Deep down in the marrow. She didn't own space in my head anymore. Didn't get a say in how I felt when I woke up. She was just a memory now. One I didn't need to chase. Or fix. Or destroy. I scrubbed her out of everything she tried to poison. My home, my friendships, even my sense of humor. Piece by piece. Day by day. Started cooking again. Repainted the office. Replaced the bed. Went out more, nothing wild. Trivia nights with Matt. Road trips. Picked up boxing. Not for rage. Not anymore. For rhythm. Control. And Julia? We kept it simple. Coffee. A few dinners. Honest conversations without masks. We both carried scars, but they weren't bleeding anymore. They were stories we could share without flinching. She never asked about Erica. That's how I knew she was safe. People say heartbreak makes you bitter, but they're wrong. Betrayal does that. Betrayal tries to rot you from the inside, whispering that you were stupid for trusting, weak for loving, a joke for believing. But that voice, that wasn't mine. That was hers. I was never weak, never foolish. I stood in the fire, looked her in the face, and walked the hell out, with receipts, with peace, with my spine intact. And here's the part she'll never understand. She could lie, cheat, scream, spin, but she couldn't take the one thing that mattered most. My self-respect. You don't get to keep that when you burn the bridge. I rebuilt everything she tried to ruin. And it looked better, cleaner, without her fingerprints on it. So if you're reading this because your gut's screaming at you, because something feels off in your relationship and your brain keeps smothering the flames with excuses, hear me now. Don't ignore the smoke just because you're afraid of finding the fire. I did. For too long. I believed love meant endurance. That being the bigger person earned you loyalty. That if I waited long enough, stayed calm enough, forgave hard enough, she'd grow up and meet me halfway. But people like Erica, they don't grow. They consume. And if you let them, they will hollow you out, slowly, methodically, and smile while doing it. Here's what I learned, stripped of the chaos and venom. Love without respect isn't love. It's a leash. Erica didn't respect me. Not when she laughed about her final fling, not when she looked me in the eye and lied, not when she rewrote the truth and crowned herself the victim. Her version of love came with terms: obedience, silence, blind loyalty. That's not love. That's ownership. If someone cheats and feels annoyed instead of ashamed when they're caught, leave. Immediately. The second I saw that flicker of irritation on her face, not heartbreak, not guilt, I knew. She wasn't sorry. She was just pissed the script had changed. Gaslighting doesn't always come with raised voices. Sometimes it sounds like sweetness. Looks like a smile. Erica didn't scream. She twisted the truth gently. She packaged cruelty in charm. That's the most dangerous kind. The kind that makes you doubt you. Revenge didn't save me. But the truth did. I didn't expose her to ruin her. I exposed her because I refused to be buried under her lies. This wasn't about vengeance. It was about clarity. And sometimes, clarity alone is the sharpest blade you'll ever carry. Healing isn't loud, either. It's standing in a grocery store and realizing you're not anxious anymore. It's quiet mornings without drama. Deleting her number without hesitation. Hearing your own name and not flinching. Laughing and meaning it. What do I regret? Only one thing. How long I stayed. How long I let her erode me, drip by drip. How I silenced my own instinct in the name of patience. How I mistook endurance for love and called it loyalty. I don't regret the pain. I regret how long it took to remember who I was before she tried to rewrite me. And if she ever reads this, I hope she doesn't feel hate. I hope she feels nothing. Because indifference? That's worse than rage. It means she doesn't matter anymore. Not to me, not to the story, not to the man I've become. She always needed to be the center of the room. But in the end, she was just a plot twist. One I lived through. So to the next guy standing at the edge, staring into the same polished lie I once believed, step back. Let it burn. And walk away with your soul intact. You'll thank yourself later.